All right. Okay, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. And if you're watching this in replay, that's awesome too. And I do want to introduce to you, this is an international speaker and executive performance coach, Susan Sheehan. Did I say that right?
You did. You
Okay.
did.
Okay.
I
was going to say
variations on the name anyway.
I was going to say make more syllables out of it than I should. I think that's the now that I live in the South, we have a tendency to do that.
I have the name that can have all sorts of variations to it, but I answer to all the variations. So
that's wonderful. Wonderful. Well, you and I had the opportunity to meet. I think it was like 2 weeks ago. We met on a Zoom call, and I was just so impressed with everything that you have been doing, and of course, your willingness to join us in this program to be able to help people that have really, starting from scratch with building wealth, and to have concepts that usually I think Rich Dad Poor Dad kind of said it best is that the rich people just kind of innately teach their children and make way for that. Where if we grow up in poor households, like probably most of us that are attending this, and certainly myself, wasn't taught to us. So we have to get it in other forms. We can learn it. We can learn it from people like you. While there's so many of the modules that are very topical, like last week we talked about entrepreneurship and starting a business and what that takes. There's some, real, here's how we do this, or, here's real estate, here's, investing in stocks and bonds, this kind of thing. You get the only slot that is about mindset. And so I want to tell you that in conversations with several other coach people that responded to my post on the need a guest international speakers and stuff, they have almost every one of them said, well, mindset's kind of my favorite thing to speak. And I'm like, Susan's got it. So you won. Good. Good.
I'm grateful to be here.
Great. Susan, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey? I mean, how did you come to be doing this kind of stuff?
Gosh, where does one start? Well, let me just have a little thing. Let's start at the very beginning. I was grateful to have a combination of both in my life. Snapshot, I like to speak visuals. My mother drives a Rolls Royce and a Mercedes, and my father lived in a council flat. So I knew why they divorced when I was young, and I saw both sides of life. I was always curious to why some people seem to have the Midas touch to success, and other people just did the work, but didn't quite reach what they wanted, didn't quite get to take hold and live the life that they wanted. And so I guess I started being curious, and I think that's the number one. That's one of the number one. There's lots of key tips to what we want to share, but and there isn't one more important than the other. I liken it to a mathematical equation. It's a 1 + 1 + 1 + 1, and you go through that equation and you circle what you already know or what you're already doing. And then you have a circle that's like, well, this is what I need to do better. And then there's always the aha, oh my gosh, I didn't even know I had to do that one. And so I encourage your listeners to do that. Tick what you know, because you don't have to think about that because it's already programmed. You've got your circle of what you weave in and out of sometimes, but it's not quite anchored in there. So you need to learn how to do it differently or better. And then you've got the aha moment. So I was always curious, and that's number one. And so I was okay to ask questions. I used to just ask lots of questions. And what I identified is that success is building wealth and being successful in business is a practical plan, and almost exact is a formula, and almost exact science. There's a right way and a wrong way of doing it. And it's the partnership between the inner and the outer. And so that's just, I guess, the framework. And then it's identifying personally what the starting point is. For me, I just let me tell you a quick story. I worked with a guy once who said to me, we need to have lunch and we need to talk. And we went for lunch, and I said, sure. And he said to me, everybody here loves you, but not everybody gets your energy. So I want to talk to you and help you learn how to manage and master your energy. 7 years ago, I was diagnosed with an ADHD brain, and it's like, well, okay, my mother could have told you that when I was 7. But identifying how your brain works is another piece of that puzzle, because once you know how your brain works, then you know how to work with it. So because if I'd known how my brain worked, 25 years ago, it would have been a faster journey for me. So I guess that's why I'm passionate about sharing what we're talking about to help your listeners, because one thing we know is success leaves traces. I've been a coach for 30 years. I've coached thousands of people across the globe, from people with special needs to professionals, to executives, to corporate, elite athletes, 92-year-olds. I've really worked with a cross section of the marketplace. And I had a client say to me once, I was a single mum and I was working in survival mode. Okay, I just went out there, I did the work. I've always worked for myself mostly. I can count on one hand how many 9-to-5 jobs I've had. So I've always been an entrepreneur, but I was working in survival mode. And this client said to me, Susie, why don't you have a maid? I thought, that's a jolly good idea. Why don't I have a maid? We all want maids, right? I mean, she had a private jet, she owned hospitals. And I remember driving home from working with this client, and I worked with her with lifestyle and just helping her keep her head in the right space, because it doesn't matter who we are, how much money you have, what your status in life has, none of that matters. What does matter is who you are and how you think. And every person, one thing I've identified, that even the most successful people in this world have coaches and have people help them stay on track. So it isn't a status in life. It isn't where you come from. It's all about where you want to go and how you think about where you want to go. So I remember driving home from this client. Her name was Diana. And I thought, oh my gosh, a maid. Now, she just asked me that question, like, would you like to go have a cup of tea? And I thought, we have a whole different sense of programming. Now, my grandmother was a very successful businesswoman, retired in her 50s, never worked another day in her life. My mother lives with choices, but we didn't have maids and butlers and private jets. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's a whole different layer of knowledge, of information, of rewiring. So I started studying what that actually meant, what is going on with the unconscious, what's going on up here that causes Diana to think having a maid is just like having a cup of tea, and it didn't even come into my mind as an option.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's just a whole nother story going on here. So that then took me on another trajectory of learning and feeding my curiosity, feeding my curiosity.
So I'm curious, at the time, was it within your grasp and your, I don't know, financial ability to have a maid at the time? And it's just like, I don't, or was it something that you're like, oh, I'm going to have to make more money to have a maid?
Yes. So the first thing was, okay, now there's a difference between there's a difference between having a cleaner and a maid.
Okay.
Okay, so a cleaner comes in and mops your floors, cleans the shower, and does what you don't like to do, right? And you may pay them, I don't know, I think cleaners now here get about $70 an hour. So you can, and cleaning companies now is big business. But at the time I was a single mum, and remember, I was functioning in survival mode. So the thought of even having a cleaner was way past it wasn't in my thought process at all. It's that level of shifting the thinking. And I guess what shifted with me in that moment was, okay, she's thinking a maid is like having a cup of tea. It isn't even in my thought process. Hey, I haven't even got a cleaner. Why would I go to a maid? If I haven't got a cleaner, having a maid isn't even anywhere there. So I realized that I had to start really not only being curious about why some people have success, but I needed to really start to understand business and go from surviving to thriving mentality. I had to get out of wanting to pay my mortgage every month, because I had a really wonderful property and I had a great structure in place, but I needed to shift the thinking from surviving from month to month to looking at developing a growth mindset and seeing bigger.
Wow. Wow.
And so that was my first shift. I raised a son with an intellectual disability. Matthew was born with 3 parts of his brain damaged, multiple food allergies, had a seizure every 20 minutes. What I learned from bringing up Matthew is that being curious not only opens the mind to see more, but it doesn't matter if you don't know who you're asking the question to. You've just got to ask the question and the answer will come to you. Matthew was drug-free, allergy-free, and seizure-free. We would go to doctors. I'd walk out of the doctor's surgery, look down at this little boy and say, I don't know what we're going to do, mate, but we ain't doing that. So I was asking questions. If somebody said to me, what did you actually do? Right now, I couldn't tell you specifically that process, but all I know is that I kept asking myself questions and the answers followed. So I've always applied that strategy when it came to developing my own mindset about creating wealth. I realized that I had to become coachable. I woke up one day and thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to be coachable. I'm expecting everybody to do what I tell them to do, so I've got to start doing the same. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. That's interesting. As a counselor, part of my training, 25 years ago is I had one of our professors said, every therapist needs a therapist. And I thought, that makes sense. I like that. And I didn't want to, part of you kind of fights that, but no, I have a therapist, and I've had several therapists over the years, and I need them. I have a coaching friend right now, and he has a really interesting mindset about that. He says he has 6 different coaches in his life in 6 different areas of his life, and he'll only hire a coach if 1 is that they're really, really good at what they do, and 2 is that they have a coach too. And I thought that was very interesting, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. But you grow into this stuff. It's a step-by-step process, and every step of the way you become more aware of what you need to do. I remember when I was studying NLP, because I'm an NLP practitioner and trainer. When I was studying NLP, part of the protocol was to work with one of their success coaches. And I remember and this will move into another, which is an essential piece of that equation. She was a delightful woman, and she had a little business that she was running from her office 9 to 5, but she didn't get me. And I remember saying to her one day, I said, look, thank you so much, and I respect your success, I respect what you know, but I need to go find somebody who gets me. And so I put it out to the company, and I said, I need to work with somebody who has a bigger vision than what this woman does. Because one thing I identified in this process of, going from the cleaner to the maid, was that we have to know what we want. We have to know what we want. Let me ask your listeners a question: is what is your heart pumping core desire? You have to know what that is. It is absolutely the number one key to success, because if we don't know what we want, how do we know what to do? It's just that essential piece. In fact, it really is that beginning piece of this process of getting what you want. Because one thing I know for sure, that getting out there and stepping out there and creating your own destiny and creating what you want, building the life that you want to live, I'd love to say how easy it is. And I don't use the word hard in my vocabulary, but you do have challenging days. We are bombarded with 2 million bits of negative crap from other people every single moment. And if we don't know what we want, if we don't have that heart pumping core desire in front of us, we don't have a preview playing on in the brain of what that looks like, and we're connected to what it feels like, the replay of the past will keep coming in, because negative crap is more powerful than positive crap. Positive crap is an acronym for criticism, resistance, anxiety, procrastination. Okay, pain is an acronym for problems, apprehension, internal conflict, and negative belief. So when I use the words pain and crap, it's all of this stuff that's stored in here.
An acronym. So when you have coached people that when you ask them this key question, they say, I don't know, do you have a process or an exercise or a suggestion for them to figure out what they want?
Well, I have a process that helps to put them into the screen of their mind, but that's the next piece of the puzzle. How to help people connect with what they want. That can sometimes be a journey, Casey, because most people get stuck in that they don't believe it. Now, what happened in the second part of that story, 3 weeks after I fired the NLP coach, I had a call from this guy. His name is Michael. And he said, I'm here too. And I said, oh, hello, Michael. I said, before we talk, can you answer a question for me? And remember, I'm just developing this vision for my life. I just knew that I had to follow what I felt was right for me. And always do that. Follow what is right for you. Even if you don't know what that looks like, just always follow that gut feeling. And he said to me, well, he said, I've got a master's in nursing. I've built a multi-million-dollar network marketing company. And I've actually developed this whole NLP training program. Oh, well, you'll do. I said to him, yes, well, you'll do. Well, thank you very much. We can talk now. And because he laughed at that. But do you know the very first exercise he got me to do? He said, I want you to go away and I want you to write a 3-page story on your perfect day. Write a 3-page story on your perfect day. Now, that may seem like a very simple exercise, right? Do you know, it took me 6 weeks to do. And it took me 6 weeks to do. And this is a really significant piece of what we're talking about here. And here's the third part of this story is every week I'd call him and he'd say, have you written your 3-page story yet? No, but bang, and he'd hang up on me. You know, he wouldn't talk to me until I had written this 3-page story.
Wow.
So now why didn't I just sit down and write the story? Why didn't I sit down and write a 3-page story? Why? Because I had all this crap and pain telling me that I didn't deserve it. I had as soon as I would go to do it, there'd be this silent conversation going on that I wasn't always, you're not always aware of this silent conversation, but because of events in life and because of situations, you know, trauma, other people's programming, all that stuff that goes into our brain, it gets locked deep down in the unconscious. We don't always know it's there, but it drives our life. So here I am sitting there going, no, can't do it. Why couldn't I do it? Well, because of all this going on, telling me that I didn't deserve it. Anyway, 6 weeks later, I thought, oh my gosh, you got to get your act together here, girl. You want to do this. Now, what did I want to do? I wasn't clear on that at this point, but I had a business model, I had a program, I was out there presenting it, and I wanted to grow it. That's all I knew at that point. So I sat there on my couch, switched off from the world. And I put on some music because music always stimulates me, whatever that stimulation needed to be. I needed to be cool, calm, and I needed to be in that zone. Told myself this was fun, this was exciting, and I wrote my 3-page story. Do you know what he had? Do you know what he did then? He then said to me, post it and don't open it. Post it to yourself and don't open it. Now I opened that. Now that was probably 18 years ago. Maybe even 20 years ago, I opened that letter 18 months ago, and wow. I had achieved everything in it other than 2 things that we are unfolding as we speak.
Wow.
So the brain, I guess, you know, the lesson for that is that the brain needs to see something, because as I said, if we don't put something new and exciting and a preview of where we're going, then it will just draw on the replay of what has happened. Now, this is not me just giving opinions. You know, Einstein said that imagination was more powerful than knowledge. Well, science now tells us that this is a fact. So use your imagination. What is your heart-pumping core desire? Then turn it into a beautiful, exciting, panoramic preview that always sits in front of you so that you can drive to it. And it just it just works. It's just the piece of the puzzle. So I've just grown up in my career from one to the other. One of my very first coaches said to me, Susie, your business will grow as fast as you grow personally. Now, I wasn't in business at the time, but I was just on that personal development journey, and I thought, oh, that's a funny thing to say to me. And then one day I thought, oh, I know what he's talking about now. You got to let the ego go. You got to be okay knowing less than what you think you know. And a big one that I still practice every single day. And it's building success isn't about a program, a coach, a therapist. It's not a boot camp, a module. It's the daily practice of training your brain, developing your mind. It's playing that game with yourself every single day.
Could you give like an example of this training your brain that maybe we could identify with that might already be present in our life, and then kind of relate it to what that might look like in the future?
Sure. I
Yeah.
mean, you just think of one thing. Let's look at being coachable, for example. I had to identify with the fact that I didn't like being told what to do. And it's being coachable is one thing. That means that we're opening our mind to listen to people that listen to people that have more knowledge in one area than us. Listening, letting go of what's not working. Don't be precious about what's not working. Let go what's not working, because we can be so emotionally connected to the pain and the crap that we don't want to let it go, but we just got to just set it free. And then be open to listening what could work better. I mean, you listen to different people, and we don't have to connect to every single person that's out there telling us what to do, but we do need to identify somebody that's going to work for us, So being coachable is that. But then you've got, I don't like being told what to do. Even as a kid, I didn't like being told what to do. If the teachers at school told me what to do, I'd go climb a tree and hide from them. So don't worry, I got it back with my daughter. So they say
Yes.
So I had to stop and think about this. If I'm going to move forward into the successful life that I now want to build, because I'd shifted from survival into thriving, training my brain every single day was making sure that I am switching my thinking. There's a choice. We can think this way, we can think that way. So going from not liking being told what to do to being coachable, I had to tell myself, I had to brain feed every day. I love being coached. I love being told what to do when it's in the right context of going to help me grow. So I framed it in a way that I love being told what to do if I know that it's going to help me grow.
That's good.
And I used to tell myself that every single day. I'd sing it in the shower. I'd go to sleep thinking about it. I'd wake up thinking about it, so that I was developing my mind and letting go of the ego and being okay with going from not wanting to be told what to do to being coachable.
Yeah, that's really good. And I'm taking it to heart myself personally right now. In that one of my business partners suggested some things for me to do that are outside of my comfort zone. And I'm like, I've never done that before. I don't want to do that. I don't want to learn that. And at first I was giving him some pushback, and I was like, no, I'm going to need to grow in this area for me to get to where I want to be 5-10 years down the road. And so I'm submitting to his suggestion that I need to learn and grow and be able to do this.
Now, here's the second part of this. That part, that's wonderful. Congratulations. Now be excited about it, because it's only in that excitement that you're actually going to get it.
That's good. That's good. Jacob, did you have something?
And that word submitting, I mean, that's like that's one of those words, isn't it? It's like, oh, I'm going to submit. It's like, you know what? I'm excited about this. I'm just going to do it.
Yes, Casey. What I was going to say is, when Susan was talking about developing, I also think it's important, not just mentally, but also physically, because, you need to be healthy you need to keep your body healthy in order for your mind to be healthy as well. And I just wanted to point that out.
Oh, Jacob, you're speaking my language. I'm been teaching wellness for years. You know, the brain has two parts to it. The brain's an organ, so it needs to be treated with the same respect as the rest of the body. It needs to be nurtured. It needs exercise, fresh air, fun, sex. It needs all those wonderful things. And it's also a genius brain. It controls our life. It controls our body. So if our brain is healthier, then we have wealthier thoughts. We're able to, the genius brain is able to function better. I exercise every single day. The whole wellness factor is just a piece of the success puzzle. If you want to thrive in life, you must be fit, strong, and healthy. And that's just a fact. There isn't even a, oh, but I don't like doing that. Well, too bad, then stay poor. I mean, it's really that simple. I'm a black belt. I got to black belt in Taekwondo. I used to run rollerblading clubs. In fact, my very first experience of understanding the power of first off breaking through comfort zones and being coachable is I used to go to super circuit classes, and we're going back 26 years ago now, and the instructor said to me, "You feel music, Susie, why don't you come and teach us a bit?" I went, "Oh yeah, no, there's no way I'm getting up in front of people and teaching fitness. There's no way I'm doing that." 6 months later, I did 2 minutes. It took me 6 months. She didn't give up on me. She saw my energy. She saw my rhythm. She saw the influence that I had around people. So 6 months, but it took me 6 months to do 2 minutes. Okay, now go another 12 months. And she got me training to do a local aerobic competition. Okay, so I started just teaching little bits of classes, and I started practicing to do this aerobic competition. The day comes, 200 people in the audience. I'd practice my carpet, threadbare, and I'd spend all this time and money in designing this outfit. I was ready to go. Got on stage, and boom, bam, my brain went black. I forgot everything. I ran off stage. I ran into the bathroom. I'm crying like a baby. My coach comes in. Coach and trainer, she comes in and says, "What the heck are you doing?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, I can't possibly." And I was so terrified, disappointed. I was all those emotions. She wouldn't accept no as an answer. I came second. I got back up on that stage and I came second. Now I don't know if I came second because they felt sorry for me, but I came second. But one thing that I identified in that one moment is that it took 20 seconds of insane courage for me to go from the bathroom back onto stage, 20 seconds of insane courage. And beyond that 20 seconds was me coming second. So always knowing that what is beyond that fear, what's beyond your comfort zone, know that it only takes 20 seconds of insane courage to get to the other side. And if you know where you're going and what you're doing, the other side is always brighter. And that's that next step of growth. It's that next step of growth. So that was my first experience of truly feeling the power of having somebody else inspiring you, motivating you, but truly the exceptional result from breaking through a comfort zone.
Wow. So you've reviewed some of the outline of this module that we're in, and it talks a lot about limiting beliefs. Can you speak into, you have, but especially in the beginning stages, the beginning process of kind of getting on this train, what are the limiting beliefs and what do you do about it?
Oh gosh, we don't even know what some of them are at times. We have a very simple formula that I created. It's like the brain is the bridge. Your brain is the bridge to your success. It's got to be made of the right stuff, and it's got to be going in the right direction. It has to be unbreakable. Your mind is the vehicle that takes you there, and that's got to be resilient and unstoppable. Your belief is the engine that drives the vehicle, and your passion and your purpose is the fuel that makes it move. Okay, so if your belief is full of all of this pain and the crap, then what's going to happen with your vehicle? It's going to be like, you're going to be doing bunny hops. You're not going to move. You're going to go, it's just not going to work. So limiting beliefs are beliefs that do not serve you. Keep simple, very simple explanation. Limiting beliefs are beliefs that do not serve you. That engine that's driving your life is not, you know, you've got a shitty little Hyundai engine in a Mercedes vehicle. It's just not going to be going where you want it to go. It's not going to perform how you want it to perform. Limiting beliefs are put there from other people's programming. Morris Massey identified, he's a sociologist, identified that we are given our core belief from 0 to 7 years old. And if you were brought up in an environment where success was not celebrated, where you're brought up, you know, believing that rich people are always bad, or, you know, eat all the food on the plate. Oh, you can't do that, it's too expensive. Oh no, you don't want to do that. That's not for people like us. You know, if you had these sort of conversations, then all of that is literally being stored in your unconscious. Your brain just gathers all of this information and it stores it. And then it forms what you believe is true in the world. But here's the fact, that just because you believe that it's true doesn't mean it's the truth. You know, your belief is what you believe is true for you, but it doesn't mean it's the truth. So here's the question, how do you know? How do you know if your belief is serving you? Look around you. Are you living the life that you want? Do you have the money in the bank that you want? Do you have the relationships that you want? Do you love the body that you have? Think about all the aspects in your life and ask yourself that question. And if you're not living the life that you want, and as I said before, I don't care where you come from, what your status in life is, how much money you have or don't have, this is all about you. Ask yourself those questions. And if you can see that what is driving your life, what your belief system is limiting in any way, it's stopping you from living the life that you want, then what do you do about it? Well, very simple. What do you want? Always go back to that. What is your heart pumping core desire? Turn it into that vision so that you have got, and here's another point that is really, really important, is that knowing what you want, creating that dream life is the first step, but then you've got to turn it into a vision. You must become a visionary of your life. Just having a dream, dreaming about it and having all those beautiful pictures is only the first step. You must then become a visionary and connect emotionally to it. And you see, our brain has parts to it. Parts of it are going, yay, yeah, you can do that. The other parts, the limiting parts, are going, yeah, no, you can't. That's not going to happen, because that old programming comes in. So you've got this conflict. You've got this conflict, and some of the parts are driving you forward, the other parts are pulling you back. So you've always got this conflict. How do you fix that conflict? How do you get flow in your unconscious? Is by being mindful. Being mindful. Now, we've got 7 ingredients to this, but one of the significant ones is being mindful. What does that mean? What that means is that your 2% conscious brain is aware every day of what the 98% of your programming is doing. So your 2% conscious is aware of what you need to do every day to override and rewire that unconscious. Does that make sense?
It does. You know, it occurs to me that I have an unusual advantage, I guess, in life, in that when I was 16, I started going back in the 80s to the positive thinking, affirmation use, visualization, these types of things. And so I started off life with them. And I think one of the things that later kind of immobilized me from continuing on in those is that, okay, I've got to decide what I want. And that, but I got to be so careful, because now I'm going to get stuck in it. And it wasn't until later that I was like, no, I can redecide. If I'm like, okay, I don't really want that, I can change my dream. I can change my vision. I can change my pursuit. I can, and still, yeah.
Always.
Casey, for your limiting factors, there's a couple things to point out there. Is one is a lot of people have the idea of, oh, well, what makes me different from everyone else? If so many people have done it before me, then what would make me different from any of those people? And I would put that back to kind of what Susan was saying earlier with, having a passion, being healthy and being motivated, and just not wanting to give up. How she said that she doesn't say hard, then there's going to be difficult days. Just not letting those get you down to the point where you ever give up.
Good.
Yeah, you know what? You're so true. Now you've moved into a little bit of the branding box, because once you get into business, then you need to identify who you are as a brand. Because in business, you are a value. Your business is the result, and you as the value, you need to know what your values are, what your philosophies are, what your uniqueness in the world is. But the piece before that is to develop that unconscious competence. We look at the different boxes of growth, let's call them. You've got your mental well-being and that mental health aspect, which Jacob, as you've already acknowledged and recognized and mentioned, is that the health and wellness factor is a big one. So for people that are starting out and feeling like they're not coping with their past story, or with the chaos of life, or this chaos of overwhelm, then getting that in place is number one. And that's part of that is having that healthy lifestyle plan, doing some exercise, eating healthy food, being around the right people. The next box is to who are you? Who is the authentic me? Who am I in the world? And what do I need to, what pain and crap do I need to get rid of so I can step out, feel safe in self, and own who I am, and get out into the world and do what I want to do what I was born to be doing. And then the next box is you as the brand. And when you do things in the right order, when you get to you as the brand, then you know straight away who you are, what your values are, what your philosophies are. You can then position yourself, identify what your unique selling point is. Back into box two, unless you do this work on self and identify what all these limiting beliefs, that's pain and crap that could be stopping you, in the branding box, you're not going to identify what your uniqueness is, because all the pain and crap's going to tell you that you don't deserve it. You're not worthy of it. And how the heck can you go out and tell other people what to do if you don't believe in yourself? Mm. So, and of course, all this conversation is unconscious. We don't know this crap's even going on half the time. We're just not getting the results that we want, or living the life that we want to live. So getting into self, getting into that second box where, you've got your healthy plan, you're mentally and physically in tune, you're feeling good about who you are mentally and physically. But now let's get inside that genius brain. What's going on in that genius brain that could be stopping me from fulfilling my purpose in life? And I remember another quick story. We had this women's program that had launched across Australia and New Zealand, and had a significant online presence, had thousands of women in this program, but I still wasn't hitting those. The business plan said one thing, and the bank account was saying a different thing. Now we knew that it was working, we were making money, and we were creating a significant noise and mess in the marketplace, but it still wasn't hitting the target. And I think this also comes back to when I said about asking questions, being curious, but also be okay with asking yourself questions and listening, hearing the answer. So when I was in my silent time, my strategic thinking time, the time where I just, sit and go inside self, I say, well, why isn't this working? The business plan says that we're making money. Why aren't we hitting the financial targets? Do you know what always came back? I don't deserve it. And I'm thinking, what do you mean I don't deserve it? I had this conversation with myself, but I still had pain and crap that was locked down deep, that was stopping me from stepping out and truly fulfilling this financial plan. Because we have to really understand, we have to appreciate that business is a value to value exchange, and the marketplace will show you the money when you show the marketplace your value. And if we have any limiting beliefs in box two, when we're working on identifying who we are personally and getting rid of all of that, a lot of people go back and do time therapy and take people back into their events. That is definitely one way of working with it. For me, I just think, just got to just see forward, just Start rewiring where you want to be rather than always revisiting where you've been. And that's why, again, going back to the beginning, what is that heart pumping core desire? What do you want? What do you keep going? Because unless you see what you want, where you're going, have that preview playing, you believe it's possible, all of this work is too hard to do. You stop doing it, you hop back into that comfort zone, and you live the life that you always live. And I say that to people. I said, if you look around you, are you learning to love the life that you have? Or are you prepared to be open to be okay with knowing less than what you think you know? Be open to learning and listening, getting rid of the pain and the crap, and doing what it takes to push through that hard stuff.
That's really good. I'm trying to keep some notes of all the all the gold nuggets that you're giving, and I'm not doing a very good job of keeping up, but I just love some of them. Like, did you say that the marketplace will show you the business once you show the marketplace the value?
Yeah, the marketplace will show you the money when you show the marketplace your value.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that.
Because one thing I've identified with successful people, and I've always, and look, gosh, I could write a book on stories, but some of the lessons I've had from the stories is that you don't listen to people who can talk, you listen to people who can talk and walk at the same time. It's a walking and a talking together, in whatever area that is. And I learned the hard way. When I say learn the hard way, heartbroken, finances lost, you name it, listening to the wrong people. So, if we can encourage and influence other people, and it does, again, I'll say it again, it doesn't matter who you are, where you've been, or where your status in life is, to surround yourself with people that are on the same journey as you, that have the same values, that are excited about what you're doing and can stimulate. I mean, if you hang around people that are boring, you don't do it again. If you're hanging around people that are gossip, don't do it again. If you're hanging around people that drain your energy, don't do it again. This is what being mindful is about. Be mindful, be aware of what your physical reaction to the world is. Be aware of where you're at any given time. And if it doesn't feel good, don't do it again. So I learned my next piece of the journey was to be around people that be the weakest link sometimes. So I wanted to learn from the best. So I'm very grateful and blessed. I have studied personal development and business from some of the best in the world, not based on me having like, oh my gosh, that person's so nice, because of the results that they got in life. And one thing that I know for fact is that we have to know what our heart pumping core desire is. And I use the word heart pumping because we've got to feel excited about it. We've got to feel excited about it. You just don't want to see a new car. Okay, new car. But what does your life look like driving that new car? Where are you going to? Who's in it with you? What is the story around the new car? Remember that 3-page story? I wake up in the morning and I hear the birds singing. I smell coffee, and bring in all the senses in your story so that you're connecting to it emotionally. And then that preview, then as soon as you press play on that preview, you wake up, you've got a hard day, you've been surrounded by negative people, you haven't got the results, the bank account. I couldn't tell you how many times I've had a zero bank account. But you know what? I wake up in the morning, I practice doing everything that I'm telling you to do or suggesting you do. I won't say the word telling you what to do, but suggesting you do. I've practiced it and I've got the results, because when you do this, then just flows to you.
I love it. That's so good. And especially about the part about, who we hang around. That's something that I've always been kind of guarded and protected by. And I've shared this recently, I think in the last group, is that, I actually paid to be a member of a mastermind group that met down in Florida yesterday. And I posted on Facebook, some of the people that are watching this will have seen the post, but it said, I endeavor to be the dumbest and the brokest person in the room, because I want to be in the room with these people that, and I am, when I get there, I'm surrounded by millionaires. I'm surrounded by people that are very accomplished, that have several businesses. They are pulling me up. right?
Yeah.
It's comfortable. It's more comfortable to be the smartest person in the room and the wealthiest person in the room. You know, you can just kind of sit there with your pride and kind of ha ha ha, you know. but it's uncomfortable to get around other people that we feel, you know, are superior to us, or at least they're further along in the process. But that's exactly what we need if we're going to grow in wealth.
Oh my gosh, you know, creating wealth starts as a mindset. We have a program called the Wealthy Brain Workout, which is just everything we're talking about, you know, because it's the starting piece. It has to be the starting piece. And then what is your wealth creating vehicle? So you've got the wealthy mind, and you've got the wealthy vehicle, and the two have to come together. The two have to come together as one. One thing I know for certain, and you know, all of the coaches that I've worked with, the people that I surround myself now, like you, and I think, just hold that thought for a moment, with coaching, we're here, aren't we? Because as coaches, we are here inspiring and influencing and motivating people to meet us, but then we also have to be part of a group where we're being pulled along as well. And I know for me, when I've had times when I don't do it now, but I identified that there were times that I would just be in this group where I was always inspiring and motivating and coaching others, but I was missing this piece. So you know, we always have to be that. I know somebody said to me not so long ago, it's okay for you, Susie, you know what to do. And I said, whoa, hang on a minute, we're all on the same ladder. I'm just on a different prong on the ladder than you. But you know what? I've got people that are further up the ladder than me. We're all on the same journey. And having an abundant mindset and knowing that the prosperity laws of life are real, fact, true. And when we understand how they work, that this is when success just comes to us. But we have to stay, it starts, if we don't see, and it's really very simple, really logical even, is if we don't see our own value, if we don't see who we have with us within each of us, and we don't trust and respect ourselves, how the heck do we expect others to?
That's really good. What I hear you saying too is what I believe we exist best in community and in connection and relationship with other people. And I think there's never a time that we shouldn't be being mentored, and there's never a time that we shouldn't be mentoring other people. That it's like you said, we're, you know, somewhere on that ladder. We should be constantly being mentored by somebody else, but also given back by giving to the people, you know, mentoring as well. It's good.
Oh, you know what? I think one of the joys of my life was when I'm on stage speaking and I see somebody go, aha, oh my gosh, I get it. I've got that missing piece, you know. Because we all have those moments. But I think to understand how the brain works, that one thing I know for sure, and I know that I have now developed that, is that we have to have that unconscious congruency, which simply means that 2% conscious brain, let's just keep it real simple. The 2% conscious brain is your desire, your decision. I desire to create wealth in my life. I desire to live a wealthy life. And just remember that a wealthy life is prosperity. Mind, body, soul, finances, spirit, all working as one. I desire to live that life, and I've decided I'm going to do something about it. That's 2%. Then we've got our 90% unconscious brain that's going, yeah, that's not going to happen. You're not worthy of it. You don't deserve it. You know, you've got all of this negative stuff. Now, people that are living their wealthy life, truly living the life that they want to live, have the 2% conscious brain going desire, decision, the 98% going hell yes. And there's no doubt. Now, that doesn't mean that it just comes naturally. I remember one of my coaches, he was always so, I'll tell you a quick story. You'll love the story. I was in Houston at a conference, and I was part of a VIP coaching group. There was only about 30 of us, and we all met at this gorgeous hotel in Houston. Breakfast time the second day, and there's our coach down in the dining room having breakfast, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I can go and eat breakfast with them. So off I took, didn't ask anybody. I just went and I sat down at this guy's table. And he looked up at me and he said, "Good morning, Susie. How are you this morning?" I said, "I'm fabulous, thank you." And I started to look at the menu and get myself all set up to eat with him. And he looked at me and he said, "If you don't mind, I'd like to eat by myself. I'm reading my book and I'm doing some strategic thinking. I'm mentally preparing myself for my day with you, but I'd like to just have some quiet time to me." And I was so embarrassed. I'm thinking, oh my gosh. I apologized. I went over to the table where the 30 other people were sitting, and I thought, I want to be like that. I want to have the courage to say that to somebody. Because what would most people do? Oh, okay, well, yes, put aside what they were doing and enjoy and just carry on, because I know I had done it myself, and I'm sure you've done it. Most
Yes,
people
absolutely.
have done it. I love that confidence he had just to tell me to go away. And you know what? I've done that now. And so it's those, and you do it with respect, of course, but it's that belief in self that you can. And we're talking, I don't know how many years ago that was, but it's the message here is really, really powerful, is that change happens silently and subtly. That was a powerful lesson for me. It was a big aha moment. I made a profound statement that day that I wanted to be like that. I wanted to have that confidence in myself, because his 2% conscious and his 98% hell yes was 100% aligned. And I think what we have to get in touch with ourselves about is that we have to put ourselves first. We've got to put ourselves first in the diary, because when we work on self, we make us the most important point in our universe, then everything else in our universe is going to be better. We can give more to people. We can add more value to people. We can add more value to our family. We can make more money. We're going to feel healthier, fitter, stronger. We put us first in our diaries, then everything else around us comes together better.
Really excellent. I keep looking at the outline of the notes or questions that I could ask you, and I keep thinking, well, you kind of covered that. You covered that. There's just so packed with what you have shared. You have shared some really cool self-reflection exercises, and I just want to ask one more time if you got anything else that you'd like to share with us that we could do.
Yes, I've been thinking about that. As I said to you before we started this morning, I have a dream visioning process, but your listeners need to know exactly what they want before that's going to have some power. So I'd like to share that. If anybody here listening would like to know what that dream visioning process is, I'll step through what it actually does, but you need to experience it so that you can have that full impact on it. But here's another little formula that we'll just start with first. Identify the problems, 4 points. Number one, identify the problem. And remember, the problem can be anything to do with you personally, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, spiritually, relationship-wise. What is your problem? Reframe the meaning of the problem. Reframe the meaning of the problem, because every problem has a solution and every problem has a flip side. So we have to reframe the meaning of the problem. And then we have to release the emotional attachment to the problem. And that when we have a problem, there's a couple of things here just to think about. When we have a problem, we're so emotionally in the problem that we're living in the pain of the problem, or the frustration of the problem, or the overwhelm in the problem, because we're emotionally inside it. To disassociate from the emotion means we're stepping out of the problem. We're seeing ourselves in the problem, but we're not actually immersed in it. We're outside the problem, likened to watching a YouTube video on your phone. Oh my gosh, there you are. Oh my gosh, I see the problem more clearly now, because you're in it, but you're not emotionally in it. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And then you train the brain every day to continually see the problem differently. So identify the problem, reframe the meaning of the problem, release the emotional attachment or disassociate emotionally from the problem, and then train the brain to see it differently.
Can you give an example in particular? I think we might be losing some folks with releasing the emotional attachment to the problem, or the disassociate. Yes. Can you give an example?
Well, I have a very powerful one, and I have a story, we all have a story, right? But I do have a story. I've experienced domestic violence. I've been raped numerous times. As you know, I've raised a son with an intellectual disability, and I buried a daughter. So I guess I developed this strategy for myself when my daughter was only 2, so a little tiny white coffin. I remember passing out over it, and I woke up with smelling salts. And my first thought was, this is so hard. Oh my gosh, there's that word hard. But this was hard. I was only 24 years old, so I was a baby myself. And I just remember telling myself, oh my gosh, this pain has to mean something. Now, I didn't know what that meant at the time, but all I knew was that I had to rise above the pain so that it meant something, and that her little life had meaning. There had to be a bigger reason or a bigger purpose for this pain, this absolute extreme pain. Now, you could put your own trauma, your own events and situations into that. Rise above the pain of it, make it mean something. So to reframe the meaning of that was for me, looking at it from like, at that point, it had to mean something. And I did whatever it had to do. I saw a line in my mind. I saw a line in my brain, actually. Remember that, just hold that thought for a moment. Your brain has to see, your brain's got to have stuff that it can see, and then your mind's got information it can work with. Your clarity of mind is going to be dependent on what you've got stored in your brain, okay? Just remember that. You've got to put the right stuff in your brain so your mind's got the right stuff to work with. Your mind will be unstoppable when you're feeding your brain with the right information. So I used to see this line in my brain, and I just knew that if I was on top of the line, that I was able to, I wouldn't hit the drugs in the cabinet or the alcohol in the fridge. If I was on top of this line, I was moving forward. I was slightly disassociated from the emotion of it, but I was able to move forward. So, and this takes practice. I mean, I practiced this stuff because I didn't like feeling how I felt below the line. I didn't like this overwhelming pain wrecking every cell in my body and stopping me from living life. And I used to do whatever it took to get back on that line. So I continually reframed it and reframed it and reframed it. And I did whatever I had to do. I'd go and scream. I would go running. I would go punch a. I did whatever I had to do to keep myself above that line. And then as time went past, I learned to disassociate, because I actually watched the car drive over my daughter's head. And so I had this vision in my brain. And so I knew that if I didn't practice disassociating emotionally from it, so I wasn't in that day every day, that I wouldn't be able to live and move forward with my life. And you know what was my whole purpose? To make all of that mean something. So I know that's a little bit graphic, and forgive me for that, but I know that, you know, there's a lot of people listening that have had trauma and experiences of equal impact on them. And it doesn't matter what your experience is or what your trauma is. You can choose. It's a decision. You can choose to be defined by it, or you can choose to make a decision to grow through it and become better because of it. And I chose that. So disassociating emotionally doesn't mean that you're not there. It's not there. And I remember one of my coaches, his name is Mark Robert Waldman. He's a brilliant man. He's been interviewed by Oprah. I did a lot of work with Mark, and I said to him, can you ever just wipe the brain clean? You know, can you just get rid of it? Like get a big rubber and rub it out and it never comes back. And he said, I wish I could tell you yes to that question, but he said, let me just tell you the fact. Yesterday no longer exists, but the emotional connection we have with it, we bring it into today, and we believe the brain still sees it and believes it's real today. So if you can move forward as of today, knowing that yesterday no longer exists, that the pain of your trauma is there because you have a bigger purpose in life that has to mean something more than that pain. And you know that it no longer exists, you're going to disassociate from the emotion of it, take the learnings from it, and connect with that heart pumping core desire and create a vision of what you want your future to look like, and then get up every single day and be coachable, you'll unfold what you want. I can promise you that. And you know what? The morning routine, the morning ritual, be grateful. I always ask for forgiveness before the day, because I always know I'm going to muck up somewhere. So I always ask for forgiveness before I start my day. Be grateful for what you have, because remember, there's always two sides. You can't be happy and sad in the same space. You can't be angry and happy in the same space. It is a decision. Decide today to be curious and think about what your decision is going to be.
Brilliant. I love it. Wow. Really good. So the dream visioning process, I think we were going to come back to that. You're going to describe it a little bit.
Oh, so what? Sorry.
Yeah, and I think you had a little offer for the gang here.
Yeah, gosh, that's you know what, I don't refer to it very often because I've survived a whole lifetime without it. But you know, I now fit into that neurodivergent box because I'm diagnosed ADHD. There we go.
There you go. Well, welcome to the club. As an autistic person, welcome to the club.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Okay, so now that I've given you snapshots of stories and how this all works, the dream visioning process will make sense, but it only works when you know what you want. So that's why I'm saying it. So first off, you've got to see what you want, and I'm going to step you right into it. So you're in it, and we create a beautiful vision of it. And then you're going to step out of it, and remember that YouTube video you're watching of you in it. We're going to put some breath and life into that, and I'm going to take you on an unconscious journey where you're going to see exactly what you need to do to make your vision of your life come to fruition. You know, we've got real and reality. You know, the reality is what you're living today. Act as though you belong. I want to ask you a question. Once you see what you want, once you've got that preview in front of you, who do you need to become to live it? And that's the only thing you need to work on. Who do you need to become? So what shoes are you going to put on every day that are going to walk you towards where you want to go? And as you walk forward in those shoes, you become that person.
Good. Really good.
And I look, you know, my daughter, if I may finish off with this, my daughter, I've always said that my children have been an inspiration, motivation for what I do. I have a daughter as well, and Kelsey is a singer-songwriter. She's a brilliant little entertainer. She's got a manager. She has a record label. She just signed a publishing deal. May and June this year, she toured with Billy Idol around America. She's this little Australian Kiwi girl that's just living her dream. But when she was 13 years old, we're sitting in the movie and she said to me, "Do you know what, Mama? It's going to be me one day." And she's now living that, but she's never not seen it. Now, am I going to tell you it's been easy for her? Oh my gosh. Some days that she's rung me and she's just been so heartbroken because somebody's used her, abused her, walked over her. She's lost something. She didn't get something, you know, whatever those hurdles or challenges or mountains that she's had to move to get to where she is, to get to what she wants to do that she's doing today. And she'd just say to me, I'd say, "What can I do?" "No, just let me, just listen to me. You know, I'm going to be okay. Just listen to me." And that's what you've got to tell yourself. I can do this. I can do this. But at the beginning of the year, she did this big tour. And the beginning of this year, before she did the tour with Billy Idol, actually, she did a whole last year. She did a 3-month tour with her band, and they did a tour of America. A big bus, her name over the bus, sellout concerts. They put time, money, effort into this. It was amazing. And then at the beginning of this year, they were invited to do another tour with another band. And she rang me, and this is an important point. I think stories can quite often prove what we're talking about. So she rings and she says, "I don't know what to do, Mama." She said, we have to go on a budget, and these people they don't think like me. They don't have the same values as me. But hey, we're going to be out there performing, and that's what we want to do. I don't know what to do. And I just said to her, "You just stay true to you. Just stay true to you. If you decide to step out and devalue yourself, take less than what you know you're worth, remember that value to value exchange, then you will get less. So just be true to you. Okay. Yeah. Okay, Mummy, I hear you. Anyway, 2 weeks later, she rings me. We'd had conversations before, but 2 weeks later, she rings me on this subject. And she said, guess what just happened? She said, I thought about what you said. I said, we said no to that other band, but she said, Billy Idol's managers just called me, and they want to talk to us about me and my boys. She's got 3 boys in her band, to touring with Billy Idol on his American tour in April.
Wow.
And she said, you know, if I had said yes to that other band, this opportunity wouldn't have come through my door. She said, oh my gosh, this shit really works, doesn't it?
That's awesome. I love it. I love it.
Well,
Great.
I think when especially, you know, she's only in her 20s, you know, so it's relatable as well. I'm not going to tell anybody that the journey is easy, because it's not. But I am going to tell you, if you step up every day, having faith, you know, asking for forgiveness, being grateful. I interviewed a couple last year who have built a very, very wealthy business and property development in Auckland, New Zealand, multimillionaires doing an absolutely kick-ass job. And I said to them, what is it? And they live together, they work together. I said, what is your secret? And they looked at each other and they said, and he said, we wake up every morning, we look at each other and we say, just get it done. And you know what that does? Just get it done. I mean, you're overriding all the pain and the crap and the stuff that could stop you from getting it done.
That's good. That's really
so
good.
That then became my new brain anchor. Just get it done.
That's really good. I'd love to open it up for any questions that anybody has for Susan. This is your opportunity to, if you will, turn off or turn on your camera if you can. We'd love to see you. You pop on. But Jacob, you got your mic off, so go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to point out a couple things. Back when we were talking about like similarities with people and surrounding yourself, like I've talked to you about, I think it's you're kind of the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around. So if you spend your time around good people, or, you know, people that you want to be like, you will over time end up being more like them. And then the second thing is, when we were talking about being social, we evolved as social beings, and as, you know, we're not wolves, you know, we're not lone wolves. Like we came together and made small settlements in order to make life easier. So we realistically, psychologically, we need to be around people to begin with. We can't just be alone forever, and you actually need someone there, whether for whatever reason. You know, those are the only things that I really want to know.
Yeah, thank you. I think one of the most challenging things that we do, Jacob, is to remove people that are negative. You know, I have a friend who I really like. You know, he's a really good guy. I mean, he's got a lovely personality. He's got a health and fitness. He looks amazing. But his thinking is like, I'm gonna guy, you know. And sometimes it's just, he said to me, why don't you ever hang out with me? And I said, because, and I've had to really be strong. And sometimes I feel myself even hopping into this bitch mode, which I call if I'm in a place that I don't want to be, because I've told him lots of times. But I just said to him, you have to get it, that I can't hang around you, because I've known you 5 years and you're exactly in the same place as what you were 5 years ago, because you're a gonna guy, and you bore me. So as much as what I respect you, and I'll be always here if you need my help, but hanging out with you drains my energy, and it doesn't stimulate me mentally or physically. So I'm so sorry. And I know that, you know, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, I may not have been able to have that conversation. But I now know the value of myself, that I say that with absolute confidence, and hope that in some way I'm influencing him to understand what I'm talking about. But I think that that's the biggest problem that we have, is saying no to people and putting our hands up in front of some people and say, please go away. You know, a fact is that it takes 12 hours to get one negative sentence out of your head put there from somebody else.
Good. Tony?
Mhm.
I wanted to say you are exactly right on that, and I've agreed with most of the things that you said throughout this whole thing. So I just been sitting back listening, but yeah, eventually you get to a point where, like she said, hanging around these people, this get boring, because like if they aren't talking about anything that's going to progress you in life, I don't want to hear about it. You want to gossip about celebrities? Good. Go talk to somebody else. I got stuff to do. But yeah, you are exactly right. Eventually, it just gets boring to talk to
Yeah,
people.
it just does. And you know what, Tony, it isn't about how much money people have or what people do. It's what goes on in their head and the conversations that we can have with people.
Well, I was gonna say, like, it's almost like, and today it's almost like walking around in a video game. Like most people are like NPCs in a video game. They're just, it's different faces and different voices, but they're just repeating the same crap over and over and over. So it's
Yes.
refreshing
Yeah.
when you finally meet someone that has like original thoughts in their head.
And you know what? And I think part of from coaching perspective is when you meet people that do, it's helping them find the courage inside of them to step out and live those thoughts rather than staying in this box of fear because somebody might think they're different. And I think that's a big problem for a lot of people. It's the word change. We try to keep away from the word change because, as you know, life is always changing, but it's beyond change that people are afraid of. Maybe somebody's not going to like me. Who am I going to be if I do that? It's going to be different to where I was. And I think that's what people are afraid of. But let me share what one of my significant shifts were. One catalyst to me moving forward is one of my first coaches shared this story that he had 12 dysfunctional relationships and a bad back. And he said the only thing that changed in the relationships were the face. So all the relationships were the same. The only thing that changed was the face. And the one common denominator in the relationships was him and his bad back. So he said for him, he just woke up one day and realized that he had to work on himself before the faces would change. And he said that started him on his journey of developing himself. And what else happened? His bad back went away.
Wow. Bonus.
Bonus, yes, bonus. Yeah. Well, we manifest physically, don't we?
We do.
Thank you, Tony, for your feedback. I appreciate it.
No problem. Like I said, I just sit back listening, like, okay.
Well, that's what like-mindedness is about, isn't it? I mean, and you may express things differently. You'll have different stories, and you may tell it all different ways. But that's what's so wonderful because you target people, I target people. We hit different groups, which means we're just making a bigger difference.
Well, I was going to say I heard a lot of the same points that I made last week just come from a different way, and that's always good to hear from a different perspective. It's the same point, but just said a different way. Okay, I never thought about it that way.
Confirmation.
Love it. I always say more brains are better than one. Always.
Really good. All right, Susan, any final comments, or I want to leave us with some particular thoughts? Kind of gave it all out, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I just wish sometimes we could just, when I think of putting on my business hat, there's 30 in America. There's 33 million small businesses in America, and only 4% hit $1 million in revenue. Why is that? There's 2.5 million small businesses in Australia with the same percentages of success. Why is that? It's because and the other big factor is, and especially even that's just like quadrupled, 10 times tripled since AI. We live in such an information world that there's all the knowledge in the world that people can get hold of to know what they need to do. So if they've got all this information, why is it that only such a very teeny weeny % of people in business build their success? Because it's all about self, and there isn't enough we need to help more people understand that working on self, as challenging as what it is, and as hard as what it can be, and as difficult as some days where you just want to just give up and scream like crazy, that it is the most rewarding thing. And I just sometimes wish we could figure out a way just to just go, this is what you need to do. People go, okay, I'll do it. So we can move more people into what we're talking about. A pill, a potion, and just something that can just go boom, bam, I'm going to do it. I get it. Because 96% of people that are failing in business, we see the problem. And somehow we've got to reach more people to help them really know that it's okay to go through this bubble of change.
Well, and I can't speak for Australia, but in America, that's really just the way you're, like, from birth, you were raised and trained to be an employee. That's
that rich dad, poor dad story, isn't it?
Yeah. But I mean, the thing that bothers me now, though, is that, like, back in the day, like, you had to know somebody, like, that information was all squirreled away. But now that information is out there, it's freely available, and you're scrolling TikTok. Yeah, you're scrolling TikTok. Why? All the stuff that you said you wanted to know 10 years ago, here it is.
Yes, and fun. TikTok, so much fun. I love TikTok.
It is.
It can be fun.
Susan,
I think TikTok demonstrates how we can be free to be ourselves while we're delivering information. I think that's one of the things about TikTok. I'm just getting my head around TikTok and how I want to be on TikTok. But I think TikTok is one platform. Forget about all the stuff that people say about it, but I think it's one platform that you can deliver your message, because every single one of us has something that we know that we can help somebody else know. We have something that we know that we can monetize to sell. And even if you're only one step forward of somebody else, just could be one thing. We all have that in us. And I think TikTok allows us to share that and be our quirky, authentic selves, whatever that may be. We just got to be okay to do it.
really good.
I'm too old for TikTok. I've just accepted that fact.
Oh no! Now there's a limiting belief, Tony.
No, I don't want to be on. I've got I don't know how damn old they are now. A 20 and a 19-year-old, two girls. I cannot listen to that all day. I cannot listen to bruh.
Well, you know what, different strokes for different folks. But from a business perspective, just let me share a couple of figures with you. Is that the 40 plus market on TikTok looking for business improvement is really they're spending money. So.
Yeah, and also their algorithm is shooting your daughter's videos that it would never shoot you, you know. So with your interest and what, you know, like she just said, the 40 plus business market, you're going to get some really interesting things that are for you. I'm with you. My daughter listens to the goofiest, you know, and some of it is just, I feel almost I have to tell her, you can't watch that person anymore. That's harmful.
Well, even more than that, to be honest, I'm just tired of social media. I'm on there for my business, and that's about it. Other than that,
me too. I don't do any personal. Nobody knows any. I don't put personal on social media ever, and never have. I'm quite a private person, even though I get out there and share stories, but nobody knows what I do on a day-to-day basis. I certainly don't ever share personal things ever. It's a business platform, and whatever that platform is, but it's all about the intention of it is to attract like-minded people so that we can help more people, and that's my intention with all of it. So I'm with you. I certainly, if I didn't have to do it, I don't think I would do it either. It's not a choice. It's just if you want to make a bigger difference, this is how my thinking. I'm on a mission to make a bigger difference to the world and get, we're on those international platforms again now that COVID's sort of settled down. You're not relevant unless you are on social media.
Hear that. Well, and to kind of wrap up, I'll remember something that you said when we were talking before we hit the record button on this, Susan, and I'm quite sure that I have it. I tried to get it down, but I think I got it down wrong. But it was something like wealth accumulation is a cooperation of the inner and the outer. The
Yes.
inner and the outer, which I say something, always said something very similar, is that you got to work on your inner before you your internal before you can get the results in your externals. So maybe if you had any closing remarks on that comment, that would be great.
Well, it's I look at it. Look, I am so not a scientist. I'm very definitely the right brain, visual, creative individual, but I've trained my brain to see more detail. I've trained my brain to, I'm still not that person that you're going to pay to do a spreadsheet for you, but I tell you what, I know now how to read spreadsheets, I know the importance of them. So I have trained my brain to see numbers. I've trained my left brain to see what I need to know. And one thing I also know for certain is that all success starts from in here. Now, we've talked about people. We are coached by billionaires. And I'm just going to say two things that these two billionaires that have shared over the last couple of months in our coaching sessions. Number one, Adam Coffey. The number one step to all success is mental. So, which just demonstrates that what we're talking about isn't an opinion based on the three of us. It isn't just a fly-by-nighter. This is absolute practical business fact. The number one step to success is all mental. And then billionaire Fred, who's another one of our coach's coach, as we're talking about before, our coach's coach, says that your brain is more valuable than money. Now, if we can take those two factors and relate them to us, okay, if all success is mental, then what am I thinking about myself? How do I feel about myself? Do I have that unconscious competence? Do I have faith in myself? Do I believe in myself? Do I respect myself? And how do you know if you respect yourself? Well, I think flipping that into disrespect, if you know that you need to do 1, 2, and 3, and you know you're not doing 1, 2, and 3, then unconsciously, how do you respect yourself? Respect comes from action. So we know that we respect Mary Jane and Jim because of what they've achieved in life, because of their values they live by, because of the integrity they are as people. So if we're not living that ourselves, how do we respect ourselves? So I think that that's really analyzing what that mental state is. And then knowing that your brain is more valuable than money just means that this is where it has to start. What are you putting into here that's making you wiser, that's giving you more information? Because if you're wiser and you've got the right information here, guess what? You're going to make more money because it all starts here. And if it's all about just getting up every day and doing your I ams. I am healthy, wealthy, and wise, brilliant, bold, and beautiful. I sing that in the shower. I'm healthy, wealthy, and wise, brilliant, bold, and beautiful.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That is my
Susan,
little,
thank
and
you.
I think that's what everybody has to do. They've got to create their own little mantra.
Yeah, that's good. Affirmation use is great. Thank you so much for joining us, man. I just can't, I'm going to, because I wanted Susan to be able to speak as much as possible. I think we need to, I'll end the recording now, but the conclusions or the synopsis and some of the notes that I've taken, I'll put into the coursework there too. And so we can benefit from I'm gonna have to go back through the recording and make it probably double the notes for the things that I missed, but you packed so much information. It just comes off beautiful. I just appreciate everything that you're doing.
Oh my gosh, thank you. And just if I could just say before I go, look, please, if you'd like to experience the dream visioning process, Casey has all my details. Just reach out and we can either get on WhatsApp or Zoom or something, and I can go through it with you.
Wonderful. And I want you guys to realize what a generous offer that is, because it's a wonderful process. She described it to us, and she said that you could contact her, and I'll put her contact information in with this video in the coursework, and you could reach out to her if you're bold and beautiful.
Right.
And
healthy, wealthy, and wise, brilliant, bold, and beautiful.
There we go. Yeah. So if you get some of the bold part, here's an opportunity to express that. And practice that boldness is reach out to Susan and say, Susan, you offered to do the dream visioning process with me, and I'd really like to do that and make that appointment. That would be awesome.
Can I just share one more quick story? And I know that
Please.
Jacob would relate to this. I went to a marketing seminar in Texas once, and there were 4 speakers, about 200 people in the audience. And one of the speakers was the youngest, wealthiest entrepreneur from Norway. So he strode down the aisle. He was a really cool guy. He had on a suit, an Armani suit about the color of your shirt there, Casey. He strode down, he's giving high fives to people as he's walking down the aisle. He had this really cool personality, He jumped on stage, lay on the ground, kicked like a dead bug, and said in broken English, "Don't be afraid to be unusual." and I thought at the time, oh my gosh, he's a bit weird, but of course when I was open, it's like, yes, we've got to find our uniqueness, and we've got to be okay to stand in it and stand out from the crowd. If you want to truly create wealth, real wealth, you got to be okay with being unusual.
Similar to that, what I was told when I was really little is the things that make you weird in school, if you can embrace it and market it, will make you rich as an adult.
Absolutely, love that. Absolutely. Well, I used to climb trees to hide from the teachers, so I wonder what I have to do. You're absolutely right, Jacob. 100%.
Yeah, I'm sitting back here mad 26 years later. Mad I didn't hang out more with comic book kids.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
the nerds. Yeah.
Nerds rule.
Man, there was
Similar to you, I was a computer guy in the middle of the woods of West Virginia. My 8th grade graduation was 12 people, man. And I'm over here like, I love computers.
Yeah, wow. Gosh, hindsight's a great thing, isn't it?
Really good, really good.
I have to say that it is never too late. It is never too late. We live in a world where we can do anything, anytime, anyhow, any way that we want. We are coached by a guy that is 96 years old. He was Donald Trump's advisor for 47 years. He's no longer associated with Donald Trump because Donald Trump's in politics, not business. So, there was a separation of ways, but he was in business with Donald Trump. He was his advisor for 47 years on The Apprentice. He's 96 years old and he's still coaching. Wow. We live in this world where, when we're open to learning, and it doesn't matter how old we are, it's all about just that belief in self, just wanting to do it. So
wonderful. Well, great.
Go, Casey, just switch us off.
Well, I just wanted to give everybody an opportunity to say thank you to you, and then we'll just go ahead and shut down just due to time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kate. You can delete editing as you take out what you want and keep what you don't. But thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Nice to meet you, Tony.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Jacob, for sharing your thoughts and engaging with us.
Yeah, it's no problem at all. Thank you, everybody, for showing up.
Good. Good night, everybody.
All right. Cheers.